You can't ban out both. It's realistically probably better to just ban neither. And Morgan obviously does love this Ornn pick. He's really gravitated mostly towards Ornn and Renekton, so gonna get that out of his hands. You would expect RNG to go towards Ezreal, but they didn't first game, so maybe you're right, and they themselves just go towards that Ashe.
We'll have to see where Betty goes with this one. When you look at his champion pool, he has played a ton of Ezreal in the past. He's played 4 so far this split, games of Ezreal. But he's actually played a couple of games of Misfortune as well. So that is still an option for them. RNG have options available. The Twisted Fate, though, locked in by Crime.
So it makes sense, right? We did see them ban it in the first game. So wanting to lock this up early, not let Teacherma get his hands on it. And obviously, since he also doesn't have the Galio, nothing that can really easily follow it. An interesting answer that they could take, though, if they do want to be able to try to follow the Twisted Fate roams, is the Aurelion Soul. So I want to keep my eye on where WE go. I do expect them to lock in the Renekton. We already pointed, this is Morgan's other big champion.
Yeah, I mean, I remember right at the start of spring, Morgan wasn't even the Ornn guy at the start of spring. It was the Renekton and the set that he really popped off on to start his season off. But then the Ornn came in later on in the split, became his go-to. Beisheng with the Trundle here, not the carry that you usually expect out of Beisheng.
No, but moving over to RNG, I actually really would like them to pick the Ashe rather than the Ezreal here because you have Thresh and Twisted Fate, right? So when you have these two champions, you think pick comp. Yeah. So let's just keep building on that identity, which Ashe obviously does extremely well.
Let's go Elise jungle. I'm ready. It's probably not going to happen, boys and girls.
Well, no
soul band away here.
Yeah, so we're already running out of options. And the fact that Beisheng has already taken the Trundle means we're not seeing Pantheon Echo. So I would assume that in itself is a soft ban to another champion that Teacherma plays. I guess we could see the Rumble, the set also. Obviously, we'll just ignore the Twisted Fate. The last thing, which would be quite interesting if you wanted global pressure still, is to take Nocturne, but you have 380 champions already, so actually, Teacherma's options feel extremely limited.
I mean, the Syndra is the one that's jumping out at me alongside that Rumble still, but the thing about the Rumble, you can see the Fiddlesticks band here. We've not seen Teacherma play it, but you could easily imagine Teacherma going for that Fiddlesticks pick. It would definitely fit in his wheelhouse. There are still a couple of options for him in the Rumble, in the Syndra, and there is still the possibility that he's picked up other champions during the break.
I was going to say, I expect Xiangba to go towards Lee Sin, but now that Lee Sin is banned, going to have to go somewhere else. The Rek'Sai is still open as well, so another early game jungler if they want to try to snowball the map.
Something like the Jarvan too could be an option for them.
You would expect one of these more early game snowballing options, right? That's what their composition has already set themselves up for.
So Nu going to go with the Mordekaiser here to try and waylay some of the pressure that could come out from the Renekton in the top side from Morgan. And now WE, they have to confirm this roster.
This obviously just makes sense, right? Because when you've set up TF and Ashe, you're already saying, hey, we're going to play on a bot side. You lock in Mordekaiser, so if they trade, we pull you into Death Realm and everything's A-okay.
Well, we talked about the Karma being a flex pick in the last game. It is going to be a flex pick this time going to the mid lane. So Missing grabs himself the Nautilus, one of those hook champions that we know him so well for. And it's going to be Teacherma playing a much more defensive role here, playing the supportive role that we know him to play.
Yeah, going to be interesting because he's not even playing a supportive role for Beisheng this game necessarily, right? Karma, Trundle is not exactly a insane 2v2. No. They will win out early game as both of them are strong in the early game.
They're just basically unkillable.
Yeah, exactly. To where Teacherma is going to be a lot more about keeping Jomung alive and even Morgan if you can snowball that top side. But ultimately, this is one of the most easily identifiable win conditions for each comp where we have late game team fighting on one side and we have early mid game pick potential on the other.
This is going to be interesting. Once again, we have a situation where it's RNG the ones that have to put their best foot forward. They're the ones that really have to set the tempo for the game. And as we talked about right at the very start of the series, it's Xiaolongbao and Beisheng that are really going to be the things that set the pace here for the game.
Hey, I like how you're saying that because they're definitely going to have to be the catalyst in this game, Xiaolongbao especially. But the interesting thing for me is we look at RNG's comp, and it's definitely mid-jungle to bot, right? When you look at the side of WE, they're definitely going to want to play more towards that top lane, at least very early on. Obviously, post-6 it'll be much harder, but if you can set that Renekton up early on so he can win in that Death Realm 1v1 on his own, that's really what you're going to have to do. You don't have much early pressure coming out from that bot lane.
The bottom lane certainly, I mean, on neither side of the board, we're really not going to see a ton in terms of that direct pressure. There is always the opportunity for shenanigans to happen. That's never out of the conversation. The mid lane as well, you expect both of these mid laners to essentially want to just clear the wave, move elsewhere. So it's when things like the dragon start to spawn on the map, that's when you'd really expect these two teams to force the issue.
Exactly, and I like that you talked about the mid laners just wanting to push and move, because Karma obviously going to heavily outpush Twisted Fate early on.
I'm scared, Larry.
You know, the thing is, RNG's like players looked very menacing with that music. WE still looked like the same, like humble, little nice, like cute kids. Like, hey guys, let's go play some League of Legends.
They're called the Star Guardians, I'll have you know.
I like it. I like
Friend Squad.
The hero of the LPL, as some may say.
I love it. Well, let's see what they've got, because, I mean, the Colonel likes RNG's composition. That is for sure.
So I feel like you have an opportunity in the very early stages of the game if you're WE, because Karma definitely going to shove in Cryin. Twisted Fate not going to have a lot of opportunities until he can start picking up some item components and then start clearing out the waves with this Q. And we've already set up how you have this strong top lane Renekton that you can play towards. But once you hit level 6, everything to me looks RNG favored. You have this Mordekaiser that's going to be able to deal with any pressure topside, and W are going to have to try to match that 4v4 setup bot, but you have so much kill pressure from the Ashe and Thresh. You're going to have Cryde who's able to get there first, and sure, Teacherma might be able to follow once with TP, but after that, you can just make the repeat plays RNG.
It does feel like we're seeing kind of a different version of RNG across the course of this series than what we're used to. And obviously, there's been a lot of bounce towards Teacherma, but there have been picks available that we've seen Teacherma pick in the past that could still play towards this style. And we've not really seen WE opt into it.
No, this is strange. Even though we've set up that he does have a very Duinby-esque champion pool, him going towards the Karma, and it would have at least made more sense to me if we had a carry jungler, if we had a, whatever you want to say, a Kindred, a Graves, so on and so forth. But having the Trundle, and like we are all inning on Jomung. It's ride or die with Jomung right now, and not even just on Jomung, because Jomung doesn't get to choose how proactive RNG are with this comp early on in the game. If Cryin and Xiaolongbao just hard camp bot, especially once Betty has the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, not much Jomung by himself gets to do.
No, he's got the cleanse every so often, and that's about the level of interaction he has in that play. He is on the Aphelios, so ultimately, if you're going to pick an AD carry to ride or die by, as you worded it, I'd say Aphelios is probably the correct one to do it with. Let's just see if WE can pull it off, because in the last game, they actually did a really good job of holding RNG during the mid-game and stopping that snowball from just rolling through.
This is why I wonder if WE would want to try to cover a bot gank or dive, because if RNG mess it up once, comps like this, it's extremely hard to...
Hang on, Cryan's in trouble in the mid lane. Instead, Root's going to come through onto Cryan. Beisheng there to follow up the damage. Ignite not existing there despite the spellbook.
He was so patient with that flash, which is actually so good, because if there was a situation where he potentially wouldn't have had to use it, it would have been amazing, but Cryan holding on to the last second, gonna have to recall, but ultimately does have the TP to come back to lane.
That was damn close. It's gonna be 2 summoners here for Cryan as he has to use the TP to get back into lane. He does have that spellbook, so he can change that up again. In fact, I don't even think he's gonna TP back to lane here.
No, it doesn't look like he's actually going to need to. The fact that Teacherma went bot, used that scrying orb, meant he wasn't able to push the lane in time, so Cryan actually not gonna miss out on that many minions.
Teacherma is going to be able to get himself a little bit of a CS lead, but ultimately Cryan should be able to close that gap a little bit. Beisheng coming in onto the Krugs here, but Xiaolongbao answers the situation, makes sure that there's no kind of early dive shenanigans available for this Trundle Renekton duo.
Yep, and we would expect Trundle to win out in the 1v1 early on against the Jarvan. Of course, very strong, also does have the press the attack this game, so really good in those early 1v1 duels. Ultimately, gets some of the Krugs, backs off, and now it's going to be about where does he want to path, because his whole jungle is pretty much up. So whether he would want to go top to bot or bot to top will be interesting, but it does look like he's going to path towards the bot side. Unless he heads straight top for a dive, I would assume that means he wants to cover any plays RNG make on the bottom half of the map.
You'd have to assume so. And You'd hope so, right? Because ultimately, this is how you can see RNG just brute forcing a win in this game, is finding plays through Betty, through Ming's death sentences. That was beautifully done by him. Jomung is so low, and Xiaolongbao is here.
Yeah, and they're going to be able to push in this wave. They also have another wave coming right now, so both of them definitely going to have to back off.
This is scary. Oh, wait, what? Missing didn't see him. Where did he go? Okay, he backed away.
Well, they're so...
I thought he was just hugging the wall there. I thought he got away with it.
So WE are opting to cover for their bot lane, which, if RNG make a mistake, things can go extremely bad for their composition. So I couldn't understand WE's kind of state of mind with this play rather than trying to just play for the Renekton.
Yeah, try and just reduce the pressure that RNG have as opposed to build pressure of their own. I can certainly understand that. Especially when Aphelios is realistically your biggest win condition. Teachama could be in trouble in this mid lane right now, though. There's no vision on that side of the wall from the side of RNG, so Teachama is going to be fine. Ming doesn't actually see him.
It looks like Teachama knows, but you also don't know. Like, the way he's leaning down, I guess his jungler is on that side, so it makes a bit of sense. But
sometimes you just don't know if they know, you know?
All I know is that you don't know the difference between a puma and a cougar.
Neither do you, my friends. Or a mountain lion. Or a panther, for that matter. Or any other small cat. Which, in what universe is that a small cat, by the way? Those cats are huge.
They are pretty tiny. Again, I've seen mountain lions.
Have you seen a tabby cat?
Yes.
I know what a small cat looks like. A munchkin cat is a small cat.
Okay, they're like small to medium-sized cats.
They're pretty big. They're like dog-sized cats.
Yes, but I don't consider dogs big. I guess it depends what kind of
in
dog.
In comparison to cats, dogs are big.
I guess that's true, but...
This is a hill I'm willing to die on. Let's stop talking about cats now. Let's talk about League of Legends.
Let's talk about that Cryan has Destiny available, so maybe we'll finally see a play towards the bottom half of the map.
I certainly hope so, but Xiaolongbao is not on the bottom half of the map. He's going for his red buff right now. So, it's relatively safe to assume that they're not going to dive in the next minute or so.
Interestingly, we actually just saw Cryan back off from the wave, stand under his turret, and Teachama used a missing ping, so he was kind of giving some pressure without actually giving pressure, which is nice, because we've talked about this on broadcast before, that to me that's what really makes a kind of standout player go to that next level.
And that's one of the things we've actually complimented Teachama for in the past as well, when he's on these roam champions, just stepping out of vision in the mid lane, force pressure in that way onto the opponents. So honestly, of any player, if you're trying to do that strategy, Teachama is the one that's probably going to know that strategy the best, right?
Yep, definitely true. But now we're going to get to a point where through their pressure in bot lane, and obviously the fact that Cryan was hiding out of vision and does have the Destiny available at all times, RNG finally going to be able to pick up their first neutral objective.
Nicely done here by RNG. Going to grab themselves a Mountain Drake to start things off. Xiaolongbao able to smite that one out. As Missing and Beisheng move in, but they're not going to find any stragglers here. And I like the respect here from Jomung, not stepping up to the wave because they don't have vision in the pit. They don't know. RNG could have easily just tried to force something in the bottom lane.
True, but, you know, I know we're only hitting the level 6 marks, but the fact that we do have these types of compositions, Twisted Fate, Thresh, Jarvan, there's a surprising lack of ruthless bloodthirst. Bloodlust. Let's go with that word instead.
Why not both? Because there's no Draven, so nobody's building Bloodthirst. That's why not.
Hey, the new Draven build is also all about lethality.
True.
But we don't have a Draven, so...
The old Manamune. Why do people say Manamune instead of just Manamoon?
I have no idea.
Why does the E make it an A sound? It doesn't.
It shouldn't.
It doesn't.
Yeah, I agree. It's when I hear it, I giggle on the inside and I move on. But
and then people even call it Miramana instead of Muramana. It's a U, people.
Yeah.
I don't know why this item has so many issues with people misnaming it. But there you go.
So,
we're not going to see WE getting themselves a Herald here, Lyric.
Yeah, despite the fact that RNG's bot lane had pressure, so they could have looked to roam first.
Why are RNG not doing anything? In game number 1, they were super proactive. Game number 2 here, they have a super proactive composition. And they've fallen asleep.
Yes, they have. It could be because of Morgan's topside pressure, but still, you could have been able to rotate your bot lane first, and you obviously have Cryan's ultimate to look for any sort of picks on the top half of the map, so RNG could have looked for some sort of play, and sure, Cryan might have to give up a wave in mid, but ultimately that's something we see in the LPL all the time, being willing to give up a wave in mid, maybe even half a plate or a plate to go get more elsewhere.
Yeah, more than happy for many of our mid laners, especially, I mean, right, the world champion is famous for doing exactly that play to get his team advantages, so it's not that surprising to see here, but we're not going to be seeing that for now at least. RNG playing this so slow, and if you're a WE fan at home, this is exactly what you want. A super slow early game is the perfect situation for WE.
Yep, we haven't exactly talked too in-depthly about WE's win conditions for the fact that we said this team just wants to take it slow. As long as RNG aren't able to make plays, you have this Karma Aphelios composition scaling up to the later stages of the game.
The one scary thing for the side of WE is no matter how late in the game we get, New can always just bring that Aphelios into the Death Realm. So Jomung is going to have to pay the tax, going to have to get himself a QSS at some point, which will slow his build overall. So it does add a little bit of time to the scaling on WE.
Yeah, and we're actually building up WE's playing slow and scaling, but instead of wanting to come into the bot lane, I guess it makes sense. The carry of their comp is the Aphelios. They have the Rift Herald, so there isn't a better champion for them to drop and get plate gold for.
This feels like... This doesn't feel like the kind of game that you want popcorn for right now, Lyric. This feels like the kind of game that you want strawberries and cream for. This feels like Wimbledon, where we're just politely watching the teams hit the ball back and forth, waiting for the next serve. Nice return there from Beisheng as he's going to face check into the brush, but Xiaolong Bao able to flag and drag away over the wall.
This reference was way too UK for me.
You guys know, you guys are really good at tennis in America. Jomung really good at flashing away from the play out of RNG.
Oh!
And here's the answer from WE. Get your popcorn, boys and girls. First blood to RNG. Betty, though, can't get away from this one. Beisheng answers. Xiaolong about to go down as well here as Morgan has found his way into the play. This is what we know him for. Mingle Fall as a double for missing. And New is going to be cut down by the Croc.
And I honestly couldn't even follow what happened. We saw them secure the pick on Jomung when Xiaolong Bao jumped in, but somehow Betty dies on the top side of the fight to Beisheng, and then the rest of WE just able to run forward and secure more kills.
And now they're going to grab themselves a tower as well. Well, I said that this was a slow game. I said this is like tennis. This is gone real quick into an absolute brawl. This is going to be first tower going the way of WE, as well as 4 kills, and now a 3,000 gold lead.
And okay, so let's actually take a step back, see what happens. So we see the Enchanted Crystal Arrow come out. We know Cryan coming in with the gold card. They aren't able to secure it. Ming flashing as well. Xiaolong Bao's going to secure the kill here, but I want to see what happens up on the top half of the fight. This great ult coming in from missing. Betty flashing over the wall right into Beisheng. And then the rest of WE's members on the bottom half of the fight just running forward. Morgan getting pulled into the Death Realm by New, but guess what? New able to actually win out in that 1v1, just then wait out the Death Realm, and then New dying.
Yeah, I mean, New pulls Morgan into the Death Realm and then realizes that he's just challenged Renekton to a 1v1 early on in the game. That ain't the play. That is not how you win this fight right here. 3,000 gold lead for WE, and that means that they're able to quite happily just start this Drake up with no contest from RNG.
And now things actually get really hard for RNG. You're running this Twisted Fate Jarvan composition, so very strong in the early mid stages of the game. Twisted Fate also feels pretty useless when you fall behind because you actually don't really generate any pressure in a side lane, so it's going to be hard to create a numbers advantage. And ultimately, this comp with the Aphelios, also with the Trundle Karma as well, going to get time and get more gold and items onto the Aphelios.
It's going to be an Ocean Drake this game as well, so we should have a decent amount of contention over those dragons. And I think this is that was a very important fight for WE because it kind of set a tone here in this game. Xiaolong Bao finds himself a Croc in the jungle there, but it's going to set a tone for this game of, like, WE are willing to fight you. It doesn't matter if their composition isn't the early game composition. They're still going to take these fights. They're not just going to allow RNG to run away with the early game.
Well, it's also nice, too, because we talked about how the option for counter-playing that bot side 4-man play was there. It was going to be interesting to see if they opt into it. That is a lot more WE-esque rather than looking to play through Morgan. So glad that we saw it come, but at the same time, it is also surprising it took RNG 13 minutes to even find that play and then not get anything from it. Also feels like they could have they had a few other earlier options, both on bot and top side.
So now we see WE with the gold advantage, with a tempo advantage as well for themselves. We'll see where they go on the map with this one and try and force the issue a little bit themselves. Or do you expect them to just kind of sit back once again and go, hey, we're happy to just stall it. Now that you guys don't have any advantage to work with, we're cool to chill.
So once again, the name of the game for this comp is neutral objectives, and I mean that not necessarily in the sense of turrets, but obviously Dragon and Rift Herald. So we're going to wait for those to spawn. We're going to group up as 5. We're going to try to get those sorts of fights once again. But still, they can take it slow, right? They don't feel any pressure to start up these objectives themselves. They have the option to, since they still are very strong in 5v5s. And RNG are the ones forced to look for these sort of plays with Ming and Xiaolongbao roaming around. They're going to have to give up pressure somewhere, so that's why Beishang's able to go for this Rift Herald play, because it's like, hey, we actually can't contest them straight up 5 men for 5 men. We need to get a numbers advantage or find a nice pick.
Well, RNG are going to be able to finish off that tower in the bottom side in exchange for this Rift Herald. Bear in mind, Destiny available for Crying, so there is the possibility of a snap play out of RNG. Let's bear in mind how quickly we went from 0 to 100 with that first fight of the game. That is the flavor of the fights here for RNG. They can really just suddenly increase the pace of things.
Yeah, and we see Crying going for this split push, but ultimately it's not going to mean too much. Teacherma also going to be able to clear out this wave easily, but RNG will be able to steal a lot of WE's jungle. Ultimately, though, it's not going to turn into any kind of tangible advantage. In WE, though, going to have this Rift Herald, which even just the pressure of that forces out a TP from Crying.
Very nicely done here from WE, and I think it's not even just like they positioned to get the TP. Like, I'm sure they would have just gone for the Herald had he not gone for the TP, but again, WE finding these advantages. And they have ages on this Herald. There is no rush for them right now to drop that.
Nope, they did just pick it up, so they have quite a long time.
One of the nice things as well is Drake's going to be up in a minute 30. I was going to say they could hold on to the Herald and use that as pressure for the Drake, but instead, why not just take the tower now is what they say. John Monk steps forward as well, but there is an answer here from RNG, so not going to be able to finish the tower.
And they can't fully commit on the turret since they do know that Crying does still have his Destiny available, so if they do overstep, it will give RNG a path back into the game, especially with Teacherma, who is just showing on bot side.
So Morgan moves up to the top side just to answer the push that came out from Crying there. And once again, we kind of reset, but with the Drake in a minute's time, you'd expect RNG to be trying to start to set themselves up for success here and look towards that. But when we have a look, I was going to say have a look over towards the items, but don't forget, Missing looks pretty OP right now. That's the amount of hooks he's landed so far this game, 1,130. Pretty impressive.
How many hooks per minute would you say that is?
Quite a few.
Exposed, but
Exposed.
yeah, this
You've always claimed that your mental arithmetic was exceptional, Munchables.
this Dragon's gonna come up. WE have a very easy way of getting this. They just group up as 5, which actually don't even need to as 5 since RNG aren't contesting. Group up as 4 on mid-wave, push that out. We've said that they want to go for these sorts of 5v5 team fights, and they should be able to take this. RNG probably going to have to give that and just look to let, not Xiaolongbao, Crying get the turret on top side and get some more gold in his pocket.
That's what they're going to hope to do here. He's already got that Rod of Ages, looking for a Lich Bane as the second item. And ultimately, this is only the second Drake, so certainly not the end of the world to give this one up to WE. But certainly nice for WE to start to stack these neutral objectives up for themselves, because ultimately, that can very much be a win condition. We have seen what Aphelios can do when he's got an Ocean Soul. That carry becomes invincible, and when that's your main threat in your composition, you're more than happy to stack up the dragons.
Yes, you are. And for the side of RNG, if WE don't over-push one of their lanes or overextend in river or side lane, I feel like you're also playing the waiting game in the sense that you need New to get to a point where he can be able to 1v1 Morgan in the side lane. Then you're going to try and play out this 1-3-1 style and then abuse the fact that, hey, if Teacherma doesn't have TP, you will always have this Destiny from Crying, so you can always get more members of your team somewhere first.
Morgan's moving down to the bottom lane to just put some kind of split push pressure down. We did talk about the fact that Blade of the Rune King Renekton Certainly not the primary Renekton build here in the LPL. We do see this Black Cleaver as pretty much most of the games that we
Almost
see
every game, LPL top laners look in their shop and say, do I want to add a bit more scaling, be able to do a bit better in the 1v1s, have a better laning phase, still be able to buy Black Cleaver later on? Or do I want more HP, cooldown, and a bit of efficiency? And, you know, they go towards that second option.
CDR now is the
Exactly.
answer almost every single time. Give me that Dominus, says Morgan. And the shopkeeper says, yes, okay, I'm sorry. Which, you know, you don't really have to be as aggressive as that with the shopkeeper. But you know what, Morgan, he's gearing up for his WWE career, so he's practicing his menacingness.
I want to see how Beishang hits such nice pillars, catching Ming out, and how, you know, those flashes have to come out.
You just saw that.
I did.
All of your wishes have been answered.
Thanks, Beishang. But you're still having to wait on that WWE career. I want to see where he goes after his WWE career. Does he go to the UFC, or does he just, like, retire from there?
It's going to be the big question. I mean, there's always the option to become a politician these days.
Oh, God.
That does seem to be the way that the world is.
Where is this conversation going? How do we go from the League of Legends to
You said, where's he going to go after the WWE?
Because you're setting him up as this WWE wrestler, and now how does he move on to a politician?
Because Arnie was a powerlifter that became a politician. That is the comparison that I'm willing to make.
Completely different things.
Hey, they're all strong. I don't know a lot about fitness, okay? It's not one of my areas of expertise.
Yeah, you have syrup on your pancakes.
Maple does, that's for sure.
I mean,
Actually, no, they didn't. They really didn't. It was BLG drinking all of the syrup by the end of that series, let me tell you. Let's get back on track here, Lyric, because we're going down a rabbit hole here. Or a hobbit hole, I guess, as we mentioned earlier. We've got a pretty slow game on our hands, which definitely favors WE, I'd say.
Yes. So, for RNG, because WE are fine with this. This is cool. This is their win condition. This is A-okay.
Despite having a Renekton.
Yes. But for RNG, it feels like they have to give something up somewhere. So, let's say you teach them about shoving in top lane. You just have Cryin say, okay, we ignore this. We send Cryin, Betty, and Xiaolong Bao all down the same lane, whether it's mid or bot, to abuse, you know, Zhou or Morgan, and you commit to finding a pick. Because that's the only way you're even going to potentially open the map and push WE into a position where they start making mistakes that you can abuse. Because we've seen for the past 10 minutes that if the game just keeps up like this, Teachermouse playing extremely safe, he's only catching waves on his side of the map, and you're not going to find openings to use this Destiny and get picks.
I'm starting to wonder whether or not RNG actually watched our opening segment on this series. Whether they saw the B-roll we got of Jomung starting a fight with an Ash Arrow and the rest of the team following up. Because that is exactly what RNG need to do. RNG are kind of, I know I said this in game one and you laughed at me. They're kind of playing a WE-style composition.
You know what's really strange, too, is, so Betty has only played one game of Ashes Split. It has not been his go-to champion. But historically, there have been years in the LMS where Betty's Ashe was his best champion by far. He was looking like the prey of the LMS. But here today, it's like you said, it doesn't look like he notices that there's an R button on his keyboard. Oh, we're going to get it?
He's going to throw an E. Just a bit of vision. And then he's going to back away. We nearly saw it. Instead, what we're going to see is WE walking forward to grabbing themselves a tower with absolutely no contestation whatsoever from RNG. Beishang even confident enough to just step into the jungle of RNG there. As Dragon now spawning in 10 seconds time, and WE the ones in position to try and capitalize as Cryin pushing up towards the top side.
So, the option we just laid out for RNG is like the proactive option of how to try to get back in the game now. The less convincing one that I think would be harder to execute is, we talked about waiting for a point to where New will start being able to win that 1v1 against Renekton, which I actually don't think will be for another maybe 2 items. And then you can try to pull WE across the map because you'll be able to have pressure in 2 side lanes and then try to collapse on like a central target in mid lane. But you're also giving WE time to scale. So...
And if that central target is Aphelios, he will just kill all of you.
And if Morgan and Teacherma both have teleports up, you then have to like reset and make that play once again with like just Destiny. So that takes a lot of time. That sounds very hard to execute.
All right. So let's look at the other side of the board then, because we talked about how WE want to scale, obviously. We've talked about that, obviously, they have an Aphelios, they have a Karma, team fights look good, but how do they actually set up to win this game against the composition of RNG once we get to that late stage?
But they're already doing it, right? We just keep seeing you wait for the neutral, so you wait for Dragon, you go to Dragon. We're going to get to the point where they're either going to get 2 Ocean Soul next, and then you just take the Baron for free, or RNG has to fight you, then obviously you close from there, or... I mean, actually, I just laid out both options.
That's it.
Yeah, that's,
there are no other options beyond that for RNG.
Exactly. So their way of closing out the game is just doing it until RNG have to fight them. RNG can't ignore them forever. This is Season 10. We have Souls. We have Elder Drakes. You just can't ignore everyone forever.
I like to think I had a Soul long before Season 10, but you know what?
Are you sure?
I don't make that much jazz music, so I could be wrong on that one. We are going to see, I was about to say we're going to see the Drake spawning because everyone's positioning for it, but Drake's not up for the 3.5 minutes, so we're just going to see some wards being
Ryan. So they're going for full-on split push, which actually we haven't seen Cryan take the secondary rune. What's the name? The one where you chunk turrets?
Demolish?
There we go. Thank you very much. He didn't take Demolish, so he's actually not burning through turrets all that quickly.
He's going to zip away on his cards, though.
Think about it. He just TP'd top. I guess he did secure a turret, but then had to ult away. He just wasted 2 summoners for nothing. Not summoners, but 1 summoner with key ability. Yeah. And this is what their whole comp is like built around, right? Is this global pressure from the Twisted Fate?
He probably needs to go bot side now. Swap new up towards the top side instead.
I guess for now it doesn't matter too much since no Drake for 2.5 minutes, but...
I'd love to see WE just kind of threaten the Baron.
Not me.
Question mark?
Why do you want them to...
Because they've got Aphelios. That's what he does.
Look,
they've got 1 patch left to do it. We could have no days left on 10-12.
As someone...
Abuse it while you can.
As someone who's a fan of WE, you should want them to go for the clear-cut secured victory in stacking up these dragons. Why do you want them to gamble it to Xiaolong Bao EQs in, smites, gets a Baron, and then RNG win?
When you word it like that, Lyric, I feel like an idiot. But you know what? I just want to see someone do something in this game.
Who did that happen with in our last casting series, like the other day? Who threw a game with a Baron steal? Was it LNG, Vici? I can't remember what our other series was.
It wasn't it the LNG game where they had Ocean Soul?
No. It happened in the Vici series as well. Oh, I can't remember.
Not sure which one you're referencing. I'm not gonna.
It happens too often here in the LPL where
I just wish Betty would press R. That was a perfect situation, right? Trundle's alone. You know he's there. Your whole team's there. Why not just kill him? You got a Thresh to follow it up. You didn't even pull him into the death throw.
They do have a lack of vision, so I can see where they're hesitant. But
you can just press E first and then press R.
True. And this game,
I don't want to claim to be some kind of Ashe expert here, but she actually has 4 abilities, and all of them are accessible.
Are you sure?
I'm just saying, man.
I only know about the game from what I see in LPL, and I don't see 4 Ashe abilities here.
That's true. We have seen 2 so far, and I'm hoping...
You know what's crazy to me, though, is we set up for this comp. Jarvan, Thresh, Ashe, Twisted Fate. So it shows that they have a very clear-cut understanding.
I would say you've described how they're playing it accidentally there.
I would. It was subconscious of me knowing how this game's going. But, so it shows the coaching staff, at least, whoever drafted this comp.
All right, we've got a fight on our hands. Who's the target? WE that wants to start this one off. Missing is in a 1v1 that he doesn't want, but you can't commit to it.
Well, that was something.
Right. WE that wants to pull the trigger, though.
Hey, but
it's meant to be the other way around.
At the same time, you just got 2 ultimates from RNG, and now, so now New can't even pull Bei Shang in the Death Realm and like Xiaolong Bao secure Dragon.
There's no Destiny. Nope. And Ocean Soul is on the map right now.
Hey,
Morgan
Ashe
goes
ult.
golden. He's going to be able to flash away over the wall here. Bei Shang just wants Dragon. He doesn't want to fight right now, but it turns out they've got one anyway. Keep your eyes on Jolmung. He is the carry for WE as they go straight into this one. Moonlight Vigil on everyone, and that's the Reddit Aphelios we've been talking about.
And that was an amazing fight coming out from WE. It was just a ticking time bomb, Munchos. We talked about this was the way that WE looked for the win, and they actually ignore the Dragon. They're just pushing for
for
They
everything.
can't push for the win.
Surely not. They've got 30 seconds on Cryan, but hey, they're going to try and make this one happen. WE charge down the mid lane. Can they actually just win right here? This is insane for WE.
Yes, they can. So, looks like this is going to be game 2 for WE.
Absolutely unbelievable here. Betty goes golden under the tower, but he's going to fall on this one. WE.
Oh, God. The
What
emotes.
a patient game out of them, and what a way to win it after that. Forget the Ocean Soul. We won the Nexus.
That was a bit of a head scratcher as an RNG fan where, like, the comp is coherent. You understand the idea of what they were going for. And then, like, they got on some